when I turned pro, and dude, I had guys that I looked up to. They wanted to fight me. They wanted to beat me up. We'd be in the middle of a race. They'd be yelling at me like, I'm going to take you out, blah, blah, blah. Your gate start, this and that. It was just like a big controversy.
Like, hey, all of them is a
First timer.
All right, man. Mikey, thanks for coming on. Do you go by Mikey or Mike, or you don't care?
It doesn't matter. I usually go by Mikey, but Mike's fine. Yeah.
Well, man, thanks for coming in on this cold day. I truly appreciate it. Let's just get in and start talking about some bikes. How was your 2023 race season?
It was kind of a whirlwind, to be honest. I think I started out at the beginning of the year for the Horns Chill Downhill. And I know that race doesn't really count for the Funduro series, but, I mean, who doesn't want to do downhill runs and then get a shuttle back up? So
yeah.
That was kind of where I started. I had some personal issues last year, so it was kind of like a mental battle all year. But, you know, with the support of my friends and all that stuff, they got me out there. And I remember I was going to end up skipping that downhill race, and I was just like, you know what, like, I don't feel like riding right now. And then I had buddies kind of like pushing me like, hey man, come on, like this is your jam, like get out there, start riding. So I went out there. It was my first time racing expert open division. I had raced the sport class the year before, and ended up doing pretty well in that class and tying for the overall series in sport. So then I was like, you know what the heck, like I'll go into the expert open division. And I ended up getting third at that downhill race. And it was funny because I didn't know any of the Horns guys then and there. And they're like, well, who's this guy? Like, no one could pronounce my last name. And
yeah, I was going to ask you that. How do you say it?
Swearigen. But local legend Steve Abner, he likes to call me Schwigenschwagen because he can't say it right. But yeah, so I started there, ended up getting a podium spot, which I was surprised myself, but that was really like a good motivation factor for me. And then went into the first race that actually counted in the wilds, and let me tell you, I got my butt kicked there. Cam Reagan and Tom Pellet,
yeah, they're legit.
When you throw some pedaling in there, those guys, they're crazy. Mentally I wasn't there. I had started a new training program with my buddy Randy. After that race, I really wanted to get serious because I don't like losing. So I was really competitive.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting like fourth or something at that race, and I was just like kind of like, you know, I walked out with my tail between my legs and was like, man, I got to do something better than this. Like, I understood those guys were fast, but man, they beat me by a lot, and I was like, I'm not having this. And I ended up hitting up Randy and really getting my program together and actually taking it serious. And it was like more of like the everyday kind of, I don't know, like 9 to 5 full-time job working kind of regiment, not the, you know, like this, I'm pro, this is what I do for my whole life. And I kind of had him work around that and like, hey, you know what, like I can't have this happen again. I need to change my diet. I need to change my workout program and actually take it a little bit more serious. So we did. I started on that program, and then the next race I had went to was Tuscazor, I believe.
Yeah, I think
it was a new one for everybody.
Yeah.
I believe that was the first year that it got.
People said they liked it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, me and my buddy Matt, we went and pre-rode it like the weekend before, and it was cool, man. I mean, there was a on the end of stage one. There was like a gut punch of an uphill sprint right at the end where dudes were like falling backwards trying to pedal up at the end because you're just gassed by the time you get there. But yeah, it was a really good place. The people were great out there. And yeah, I ended up going out there and I was like, you know what, like, you know, get in your mental game and then just know that, you know, you've been doing the work. So like just ride your race and don't worry about anything else. And stage one went really good. There was a lot of pedaling. I was gassed, but I ended up like, okay, like that felt decent. And then stage two was going really good. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just fell. Like I just started sliding and fell. And I got up and I was like, well, that's it. Like no podium for me, like especially in that class too, because those guys are insanely fast. So if you make one mistake, it's like, oh, there goes the podium. And So it was more of a battle. I think we had like 3 or 4 more stages after that, and it was like, okay, like on the rides up, I was like with the group, and I was really quiet, not really talking, because I was like trying to get my mental game, and they understood what I was doing, and they're like, come on, dude, like, you know, get in there, you know how to do it. I mean, you've done this in BMX your whole life, and it's like, you understand how to like get your mental game strong and like work through obstacles that, you know, that come your way. And yeah, I ended up just like going out there and just the next 4 stages, I believe, just pedaling my butt off and just like not worrying about anything, and just knowing like, okay, well, I'll just treat this race as like a training race, not thinking I was going to get a podium. And then I went and turned in my chip, and then I actually ended up winning that race, which surprisingly was really crazy, because I never thought I would come close to beating Tom Pellet. And everybody was like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe my training's really working. Like, this is sweet. Like, and I don't know, I started getting in with those guys too, like the Horns guys, and like, man, they're great. Like, I love riding with those guys, and it was nice that I could like get in there and start mixing it up with those guys, and like they actually knew who I was, and I was like, oh man, I've watched you guys on YouTube, and like, you know, I'm like, well, the Cherubini's now, but it was the Cinderbuds channel. Yeah. I see all these guys, I'm like, man, you guys are awesome. Like, I'm gonna come ride Horns and all that stuff, and yeah, so that was that race, and then after that race, the next one for me, I had to go on a vacation in California, so I wasn't able to make the Star Hill race. I went and pre-rode it the week before because I was still out here, and man, that place is awesome. It's very like jank steep and just kind of backyard high-speed trails, and like the kind of stuff that I really like doing, and those guys did a really good job out there, and like I know it's in like Bob Bivard's backyard, so I was a little bummed that I had to miss that race, but while I was in California, I was still working out. Yeah. It's like I'm on vacation, but when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to do the row machine, I'm going to do the Peloton, all that stuff. So I kind of just stuck to it, knowing that my next race would be Davao, which is local for us. Yep. And I'm like, I know Davao. Like, me and my buddy Matt Turner and Taylor Foley, we would just go out every day and just make up the craziest long stages that we could possibly do out at Davao, just to get our endurance up and like do some kind of like, we just went to start riding like XC is what it was like. And we were out there, I was making some crazy segments on Strava where you're doing like, I don't know, like 9-minute runs at Davao where you're pedaling, and it's just like, why would you want to do that? And it's like, we're out there suffering just every day, just suffering, like, okay, this is home field advantage. And yeah, that race came around and I felt pretty good there, and like I ended up winning that race. And then my buddy Matt actually ended up winning too, so it was kind of cool because we were kind of battling with the Horns guys, and I think he raced 40 expert, and he was battling with like Roger Morgan and like some of the Horns guys, so it's kind of cool because we got, you know, trying to put Cincinnati on the map with those guys. So I ended up getting a win there, and I was like, wow, this is really taking off. But mentally I was kind of like, well, the last race for us is at Horns. It's like, how am I going to end up getting these guys, because they're insane there, like how the speed that they're doing there. And I just kept with the program, kept training, went there and pre-rode a lot, and then ended up going there and racing. Bobbled a few times on one of the segments, which I think it was drop-in or something like that, where I felt like that was like my best segment that I could do there, and or stage, and I ended up screwing that one up a little bit. I wouldn't say by much, but ended up, I think overall got 3rd at that race, and then I missed getting the overall by like 30 points from Tom Pellet. He ended up winning the overall, but I ended up getting 2nd, which I wasn't mad about. I was like, wow, I didn't even think I was going to podium at any of these races in this class this year. So that kind of ended that Funduro series for me, and I think in between all that, we had a buddy that was like, hey, there's this race in Pisgah. It's a two-day race. It's like 60 miles, 10,000 feet plus elevation. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go. Like, I want to ride something outside of Ohio. And we ended up going there. And dude, it was eye-opening. I ended up racing like I think it was Expert Pro Open Division or whatever, and everything was blind. So it was like, okay, I wasn't expecting to do that great anyways. And then I ended up, I mean, you got like Ethan Flanagan, David Kahn, all those guys that were just battling. And I think I ended up getting like 10th or 11th overall after the 2 days. And I think I was off the leaders by like 6 or 7 minutes, which was insane. Like those guys are insane. But that was like one of those races where it was like really, really good experience for me, and like a lot of riding that I wasn't used to doing, a lot of technical, like just not man-made stuff. Like this stuff is like raw, and it's like, I think we did Heartbreak Ridge, and you had to hike a bike all the way up it on day 2, and the only time you get to see it is when you're hiking up it, and I'm looking at like how narrow these trees are getting in like these routes, and I'm like, there's no way a bike's coming down this. And it's funny because when you're coming down it, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. But I think at the end of the race, like the ends of our bar ends were like kind of like worn off from scraping trees and like coming down. So I mean, it was pretty dicey, but man, that was a good race. We just had a blast. We stayed at an Airbnb that was a bunch of like shipping containers and stuff, and
that's cool.
Yeah, we like cooked spaghetti one night and then kind of just hung out, and like, I don't know, we just had a good time. It was a good like boys trip, and that was kind of it. And we haven't really did anything now because it's just winter and getting kind of cold. So that was kind of like my 2023 in a wrap.
Do you think, so was 2023 the season you most prepared for?
Absolutely, yeah.
And okay, so now you're going to 2024, we're already in it. Do you take notes? I still need to work on this. I want to change this. I want to do this.
Yeah, so I had to just reach, I mean, you know how everybody gets in their New Year's resolution on the January 1st. It's like everybody's going to the gym.
Yeah, I said year goals. I can't do the resolution.
Yeah.
And the resolution things,
Yeah. So I was like, either way, like, I'm like, you know what, like, after, I think it was like around the holidays, I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally like just kind of like pig out and eat and not worry about training and this and that, and then like get back to it at a certain point. And I think I did that for like 2 weeks, and then I was like, it became so routine for me to like meal prep and do this and that and stuff, and I'm like, man, I feel like crap. Like, I can't do this. I'm just gonna keep training and doing this because I like doing it. Like, I don't know, a lot of people might think I'm psycho for liking training, but I did it my entire life, and it was just kind of like a habit, and it's I don't know, like a pattern. Like, that's what you do. And yeah, so I you know, I hit up Randy, so he's with RS Performance Nutrition, and that's who I've been working with my diet and all this stuff. He's a guy I met through BMX. He's a big burly tattooed guy, and I always adapt to those dudes a lot.
Okay.
So he, you know, I was like, hey man, like 2023 was great. I'm locked in for 2024. Let's like, you know, up the program a little bit. I want to get a little bit more serious in the gym, because I think I was doing like 2 or 3 times a week, and it was like, we went from, I don't know, I think February last year was when I was like, hey, I want to take this serious and I want to do it. And I think I was weighing like 175 at the time. And then by like the end of last year, I was down to like 148.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So
I thought you were going to say, I almost thought you were going to say you went up.
No. So it was crazy because the type of training, obviously it was the training, and like I'm a delivery driver for FedEx, so I get a good workout every day on top of like the gym workouts that I'm doing.
Yeah, you're probably toasted some days.
Yeah, it's rough. I don't think people can order enough Chewy boxes for dog food, but so yeah, I just hit him up and I was like, hey man, like let's up the program a little bit. I want to get a little bit more serious in the gym, and just kind of like, I like what we were doing. We went with like more of less heavyweight, because I've had a lot of like back problems and stuff like that from doing a lot of heavy squats and stuff from like my BMX career. And I mean, especially living in a colder area, like my body can't take that kind of stuff anymore. So it's like, hey, I need something like low compression, like, but I want to keep my legs explosive. I want to keep them strong, and I just want to be really quick. But obviously, you know, when it comes to like enduro and stuff, you got to have a lot of endurance. I think that was the hardest thing for me, was the endurance part of it. And I feel like the best for that, for me, in my opinion, is just riding your bike, because that's where you're going to get your endurance. Like, I can go do the spin bike and do a bunch of HIIT exercises on it, and it's like, oh, that's great. But like, I go out and start riding after I haven't ridden in a while, and I'm like breathing hard, and I'm like, man, this is rough. Like,
I was just talking to somebody literally yesterday about this. I'm like, because what's the like virtual thing that people do on the bike, Zwift?
Zwift, yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I see people do that a lot in the off season, and that's great. But that's all they're doing. I feel like you need other things.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that's like, to me, it's like, nothing beats like your endurance of like just riding up and down trails as fast as you can. And like,
Right.
I feel like Davu's really good for that. I mean, I live over by East Fork State Park, and that place is a burn. Like, it's flat, but if you want to get some pedaling in, just go there, and you can just ride and not stop pedaling the entire time if you really don't want to. But
So, what about just a lot of people just don't like doing this, but what about just running, trail running? Any good or kind of like doesn't really work?
I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that. I don't think I've really like tried it, to be honest. I'd be open to it.
Yeah.
I think anything helps at
Right.
some point that has you mentally prepared for anything. But yeah, that would be something I'd definitely be open to. And I think anything, like, to me, it's just like, okay, like I can sit on the couch today, or I can go, I don't know, do like 20 jumping jacks. And it's like, that was already more than I was doing. So anything is going to help me
Yeah.
in that. I don't know. I just kind of look at stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it might not be what's expected, or like, yeah, that didn't do anything, but it was like, well, I did more than I was sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. So anything to go with that kind of preparation, I think would be pretty good.
So I just had Jared Calhoun on the podcast, and he said his 2024 goal is upper body.
Okay.
And you think yours is more lower?
Yeah. So I do. It's funny because my gym membership's at a climbing gym in Loveland. It's called Mosaic Climbing, and I've done like a lot of rock climbing over the years. In between just doing BMX and then like picking up a mountain bike and starting a mountain bike. And I don't know if it was just because I don't know, I'm just short and stocky as it is. Upper body wasn't really an issue for me. I don't know if it's because maybe rock climbing.
Hang on
at
one
some
second.
point.
All right, we're back. We had a technical issue.
Yeah.
I forgot what we were talking about. Oh yeah, so you think leg strength is more you want to work on?
Yeah, definitely a little bit more leg strength and explosion power, but also like the endurance part of things. So like the training that I'm going to be doing is a little bit more advanced than I was doing last year in the gym, and it's more or less kind of like focused on keeping my heart rate elevated most of the time. Not redlining, but pretty close.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, to me that's really good training for like the enduro races, because it's like on top of your adrenaline and riding, it's like the cardio aspect comes into it, and when your heart's beating really fast and you're starting to get fatigued, you start to make a lot of mistakes, and then possibly injury too by like crashing or something like that. So what I do now is just kind of just working on like, I don't know, just really quick reps of everything and keeping my heart rate elevated. I have certain things that I do. I usually go Monday, Wednesday, Friday to the gym, and then once we have good weather again and we can start riding again, I ride in between those days. But I know one area that I've really worked on, especially last year and this year, is core strength, because I feel like that just helps out in all aspects, even working out. Like, like I can feel it when I'm out riding my bike, and it's like, great, like I got core strength. I can maneuver my bike whatever way I want to do it. Obviously your arms do a lot of it, but it helps having that core, and you're able to like kind of like just twist and turn with the bike and kind of like angle it the way you want to do it. And when you go into the gym and do squats or deadlifts or anything like that, you can feel when your core and your lower back's like really strong. So I'm kind of focusing on that lower and cardio for this year.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for, even though I don't do it as much as I like, is for like yoga.
Okay.
I think that helps your core, and I always found like if you were like in a off-camera trail, like it keeps your center of balance really well. That's big.
Yeah, those off cameras are tricky too.
Yeah. When you start like hesitating or overthinking it, it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some close calls on those kind of things.
So your nutrition, I've noticed when you post, you always post your like nutrition. What did you have to cut out, or what did you realize you had to cut out, or did Randy kind of help you in that sense?
So it's funny because when I first started all this, he sent me a questionnaire, and it was like, answer this honestly. Don't try to like make yourself sound good. Like, answer it honestly. And it was basically a questionnaire that said, what do you eat for breakfast? What do you eat for lunch? And what do you eat for dinner? And I'm sure on the other end, he was probably like saw it and was like, man, this is going to be really easy to get this guy on track. My diet was horrible. It was, like working in FedEx and you're in the truck all day long. It's like, I don't eat whatever. Yeah, I don't have time to like stop and like go sit down and like, or you know what I mean? And I think at that point I didn't care about my diet, so I was too lazy to meal prep. I didn't pack my lunches. I was spending money every day. So it was funny because I sent him the questionnaire, and I think for breakfast, I think I put, I had a really big addiction to Pop-Tarts.
Wow.
Yeah, I loved Pop-Tarts. And I do miss Pop-Tarts. But, so my breakfast, I think I put down was like Pop-Tarts or no breakfast. And then lunch was Speedway McRib sandwiches, 2 for $3, or whatever,
my God.
whatever was in the machine at Speedway. And it's like dinner, pizza or burgers, and that was literally it. And I sent it over to him. I was like, I already felt just lethargic looking at what my diet was, and I was like, no wonder I feel all greasy and this kind of stuff. And he's like, well, what's your water intake? I was like, I hate water. I don't drink water. I was like, I pound Monsters all day long. Yeah, so I sent it over to him, and he was just like, his reply was, wow, this is gonna be really easy. And he goes, you know, the number one thing that you're gonna have to do is just make sure that you have an idea of how like dedicated you want to be to this. Mm-hmm. And he's like, because I know from BMX you have a great amount of discipline, and that's what this is going to take. He goes, I can give somebody a diet and a workout plan, but if they don't have the discipline to do it or follow through with it, then it's not going to work for you. And I was like, no, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to like make some changes. So yeah, I went from that to now my breakfast in the morning. I think either like some protein oatmeal or just like a protein bar in the morning or a protein shake. Mm-hmm. I think for lunch I do my meal prepping for lunch mainly, and it's like I haven't gotten to where I'm like measuring my food intake and all that stuff yet, because he gave me kind of like an easier diet, because once everything starts to get a little bit more complex and complicated, I get frustrated, and I'm like, I don't want to I want something that's like, it's easy to do as long as I just follow through with it, and I'm not sitting there weighing my food and doing all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Eventually, I don't know, who knows, I might be there. I'm not going to cross it out, but I'm doing like, you know, I have my lunches where I get my proteins, my carbs, and my greens. That's it. Like, Everybody's like, wow, don't you get bored of eating that same stuff? And I was like, not really. Like, it's fine. It's easy to make. Like, it's done. Like, I get to work. I can eat it while I'm driving. Like, obviously, FedEx doesn't know that, but
yeah.
And then for dinner, I usually either have some like chicken or something like that, or something super like just super easy. And I think like the number one thing I've been doing is just making sure I drink a lot of water, like a lot of water. Right now, I'm not doing any supplements or anything like that, because I think I have a lot of like protein intake right now. Mm-hmm. Eventually, like if there is supplements that would work for me, I might get into that a little bit, but for now I liked how Randy kind of came up with a plan for me to where it was very easily attainable, and it's not like, oh, this is too complex, I'm not going to follow through with it. Yeah. It's like, I mean, there's like days, you know, if we go ride horns or go somewhere and I get back on Sunday night and I got to work early Monday morning, I'm like, man, I still got a meal prep, I don't want to do this. And it's like, I battled with that last year, and I'm like, no, dude, like, look how much progress, look how much weight you've lost, like, you know, and it's like, okay, like, that's a motivator. So I'll, like, even though I don't want to do it, it's like, I found that I do have that discipline to make myself do it, which, I don't know, to me, I like it, and now it's just, Randy had told me, he's like, once you do it after a while, it just becomes a habit, and it's not like you're like, oh, I need a cheat meal, or I need this, and it's like, oh, yeah, I could, like, I don't know, like, I could have a piece of cheesecake, but I don't really want it. Yeah. Like, but I mean, there's times where we'll go, like, I think we went, because I was telling you, we went to Windrock for my first time, like, a couple weeks ago, and you always have to stop at Buc-ee's on the way.
They got some good brisket.
Yeah. So I made sure to ride a lot more than I should have there, knowing that we were going to go to Buc-ee's on the way home.
All right.
Because I got, okay, like, here's my splurge. I probably burned so many calories, so I need to, like, fill that back up. And I think I walked out with like a triple XL brisket sandwich. I walked out with a large banana pudding, a brownie, and then like a Diet Coke or something like that. And it's
that sounds like, good right now.
Yeah. So every once in a while I'll do something like that just to like reward myself. But I don't know. I don't really look at it as like a reward. It's like, okay, like you put in the work, here you go.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
How much different is your nutrition than when you did BMX?
BMX was a little bit more in my younger years, so I think obviously, you know, the older you get, the worse it gets.
Right.
I remember, I think when I was at my prime in my amateur career. Well, it wasn't a career yet, but I was in my amateur days where I was like contending for like national #1 amateur titles and World Cup titles, and I think I was like 15 or 16 at the time, and I remember drinking like Pepsi, eating like muffins from Costco, and like
Your body just
pizza,
is fine
yeah.
with it.
And it's like I had a 6-pack, and it's like, cool, this is sweet. I was riding every day because that was like, aside from school, that's what I would do. Like, I didn't have a job, like, you know what I mean? You're in school, and then you go ride your bike. That's it. That's all life revolved around, school and bikes. That was it. So when I got a little bit older, I turned pro when I was 18. And then I think I went a couple years with just not really caring about my diet. And then when I started getting on the actual circuit of everything and like seeing like how these guys, like these top-notch guys were doing it, I started changing my diet a little bit, and then ended up getting pretty healthy. But I always just fell off because I was just like, I was riding so much, and there was like a race every weekend that I'm like, whatever, I'll just burn it all. I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
But I'd say now my diet's a lot more strict than it was in BMX.
Do you, so when you did BMX, are we speaking like street beat BMX? I almost said street beat, but are we talking like Connor Fields type, like that stuff?
Connor Fields, yeah, BMX, right? So it's funny because Connor was on my team when he was like 9 or 10 doing the chicken dance in between intermissions at the races.
Oh, really?
Before he became some crazy Olympian, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it was BMX racing, and I started when I was 8, and not knowing that I was going to end up doing it until I was like 24, 25. So it was a crazy journey, but I mean, dude, it was full of opportunities. I got to travel a lot. I learned a lot of life lessons. Like, obviously, you get your experience and this and that, but like, I don't know, to me, like, life lesson, like, experience is like worth more than anything. And I was traveling alone when I was like 15, like doing all this kind of stuff, and I got to go to like Amsterdam, France. I got to go to like Sao Paulo, Brazil, like for all these races. And it's like, man, just like having fun with my friends, like living the dream. Like, my sponsors are paying for me to go to all these places. And I mean, obviously you had the guys that were out there like raging and partying and all that, but that was just something I never had done. Just because I was so like adamant about training and like getting my schedule, like even like high school, like I didn't really go to parties or anything because it was like, oh, sorry, like I got a race this weekend, or I'm going here, I'm traveling there. And it was like, I was always just having my teachers give me my schoolwork so then I could just not be at school and like just go and travel and race and do my schooling. So I kind of like those opportunities when they came, when I was traveling by myself, instead of just like partying and raging, like of course I would like experience like where we're at and like what it had to offer, but it was more or less like I was just taking it in, like, man, this is awesome, and I know this is not gonna last forever.
Yeah, that's good that you knew that, because you know there's always people who just like live in the moment, like, oh, I'll be here forever, I'll do this forever, and then boom, it's gone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then, so when did you transition to mountain bikes?
Literally like 2 years ago.
So like you were still BMX, but the career's kind of over a little bit, right?
So I think at like 24, 25, I guess you can call it like I retired. I don't know if it's like an official retirement. I don't know if they have those in BMX racing, but it was kind of like,
we could throw you a party.
Yeah, right. I was like more or less like, I don't know, man. I've ran my run on this. I'm kind of just not like, I just burnt out. Like I did it for so long, and I don't know. I was just more or less like, I don't know, like, I think this is it for me. Like, I'm just not in it as much as I was, and I was just really tired of, like, beating my body up, and, like, you know, we weren't getting paid that much, and it was a full-time job. Like, you're training every day, you're racing every day. You couldn't have a normal job because they would just interfere with it, and it would interfere with your performance because you were missing training times, and it was funny because I got out of it right around when it was like first accepted into the Olympics, and then they started doing like the Olympic trials and all that. It's funny because a lot of my buddies that I was like grew up racing with ended up like, you know, like doing races for the Olympics, and a couple of them went, and I mean, just from there it was like, man, that's cool. Like I never had like a bad taste in my mouth from it though, because I was just like, that's awesome. Like they're still going for it. I was just kind of like, you know what, I ran my toll on it. Like I'm good. I'm not having as much fun as I was anymore, and kind of just want to go get like a normal job and not have to worry about how am I going to eat next week or how am I going to get to this next race. Because at some point when it was a AA pro class is what it was called at the time. Now it's called Elite Pro.
Okay.
But there was, when you would turn pro, you would go to a pro class called A Pro, single A Pro. And that was like these guys are all new, like fresh pros, and that you'd race this class, and you had to make a certain amount of money throughout the year to basically stage up to the elite class, which was AA Pro at the time. And I just ended up, I think, in 3 races going from the first pro class to the second one. Like, I went pretty quick, and then I got into that one, and it was wild because I was racing guys that I looked up to. I was racing guys that I had pictures with when they were kneeling down, and I was standing up when I was like 9, and like I'm like, yeah, I got it signed by this guy. Now I'm like next to him in the gate,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. I'm like getting all nervous, and I'm like, I don't know. It was kind of weird though, because I had like a gate style that was frowned upon back then. So
bring that mic a little closer.
I was frowned upon for the gate style I had in BMX. It was called a slingshot gate start.
Okay.
It was nothing new to me. I had been doing it since I was like 14 or 15. So basically, you would balance in the gate, and there would be a cadence, and the cadence would go, and the gate would drop at the exact same time every single time. So I was having it to where I had this system down to where the cadence would be talking, and then I would roll back before the gate was even dropped, and as I was coming out with like my force, the gate would be dropping, and I'm already going forward, and I already got half a crank on these guys.
Did you ever hit the gate?
Oh yeah, I flipped it. It was a big learning process for me to get there, and then I just ended up, I wouldn't say perfecting it, but it just became like natural to me. Like that was my gate start. And then in amateur, it was no big deal. Like everybody I raced was doing it. And then I turned pro, and dude, I had guys that I looked up to. They wanted to fight me. They wanted to beat me up. We'd be in the middle of a race. They'd be yelling at me like, I'm going to take you out, blah, blah, blah. Your gate start, this and that. It was just like a big controversy.
That is legal.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, man, the rule book states as long as once the cadence starts, my wheel's in the gate, it's fine. It doesn't say what I do after it starts. So that was kind of a big ordeal. It was kind of a fun era in BMX though, because I don't know, it was just so controversial with that gate start. Because then some of my buddies that ended up turning pro were doing the same kind of gate starts, and it was just crazy stuff. And then I think, long story short, what kind of drove me out of the BMX is they ended up switching the gates to random start gates. So now they changed the entire cadence. And now
look at it. You changed how BMX is.
I don't know if it was me. There was a bunch of other guys doing it, but I was pretty known for making people slam the gate because, if you're balancing next to a guy and you see the guy roll back, of course you're going to go and just smash the gate. Like, but they ended up changing it to a random where they have, I don't know, like 1,000 different times that it could drop, different times. So it could be 1 second, 2 seconds, half a second, 4 seconds. So you're sitting there, and it's like after the cadence, you're sitting there like waiting for it to drop, and it'll beep when it drops. So you couldn't plan the slingshot anymore. And I don't know, it took a lot away from what I was, because I was a lot smaller, and the dudes I raced were, I would go hit them in a turn, and I'm at their hip bone. Like, damn, just bouncing off them with my elbows at their hip bone. I had guys that I was racing that were like 6 foot, 200 pounds, and I'm over here like 5'4". I think I was like 150 pounds at the time, and it was like, man, this is wild. And like that slingshot gave me that extra little driving force that I needed to kind of get that up on them. And then once I could get my legs going, I was good. But once the random started, like that gate start made it a lot more difficult for me. And then I just ended up kind of just like falling off, and I don't know. That and a mixture of just, all right, like it's ran its course. I had a great time. This is awesome, but now I kind of just want to go get like a normal job and go do hobbies that I want to do. So,
did you ever what's his name? He's based out of Alabama.
Barry.
Barry, did you race Barry?
Barry's my boy.
Okay.
Yeah. Me and Barry. He actually stayed at my house a lot when we were in California, because he would train at the Olympic Training Center down in Chula Vista. And he was pretty well into it. And then like Barry's one of those dudes though, like where he's like, no matter how popular he gets, Barry is always looking out for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Like he's never too cool for anybody, never in this and that. So he would stay at my house a lot, and we'd go ride skate parks together. We'd go ride the Olympic Center together. And what I liked about Barry too was he didn't just do BMX. Like he got into freestyle, and I think he was in the X Games for freestyle, and then he raced Harleys in the X Games, and then he got into mountain bikes and was really doing like crank works and all that kind of stuff. And like And then he just came to BMX like a couple years, maybe 2 or 3 years back, and just like went into the vet pro class. And I saw that he was racing the vet pro class, and I was like, oh, I think I want to start racing my BMX bike again, because Barry's doing it. Like that's all, he like motivated me. And so I raced vet pro like a few races. I raced him again like the last couple years, and nowhere near his speed. He's on a good one right now. So I think he just got the #1 vet pro title last year, just in November. So yeah, but we grew up together, kind of racing, and I don't know, it was a good relationship.
That's cool.
Yeah.
In my opinion, talking to many people, BMX to mountain bike seems like the best transfer of sport known, because I think XC people come into, and then I'll say enduro and downhill style, not just mount. I should be a little more specific, but I think when you go XC to enduro, you're a little hesitant, because before you're kind of like, you're up on the front bars, you're trying to find more lines, and you kind of, I think you kind of a little more hesitant. I think BMX, you're used to kind of jumping, you're understanding it, and everyone I kind of meet who's kind of came in that way, it seems to gel, or it goes faster.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I learned like over this last year that a lot of dudes that I've been riding with now lately have come from like a BMX background. So it's crazy too. And like, I mean, it goes all across the board. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of freestyle guys in BMX too that went from BMX racing, like Chad Curley, Dennis Anderson, all those
Dylan
guys.
Stark.
Dylan Stark, yeah. Yep. He was pretty wild. He used to ride at Etney Skate Park in Lake Forest down there, and he used to just hammer that place before he switched over to mountain bikes. And like, he's doing BMX stuff on a mountain bike.
He took his brakes off his mountain bike.
Yeah, he's wild.
Super nice guy. I met him in Bentonville. Super nice guy.
Yeah.
I look at Adney. Adney's a BMX dude.
Yeah. So yeah, I learned a lot, like of just people coming from that, and then definitely I would say like the bike. Like the bike handling transfers really well. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think with any sport, because there was a stint where I got into like, oh, I'm gonna road bike, like it's another bike, I can do it, and then it's like I really like learned really quick, like, well, these dudes are gnarly.
Yeah,
like, it's a bike, but obviously there's so many disciplines for each like cycling sport that you do. But I think with BMX to mountain bikes, that's probably the best transition you could make. Like I said, the bike skill transfers over. I know it's just like I don't have a hard time, like not saying that it's not hard for me, but a lot of stuff that guys struggle with like on a mountain bike, like, you know, like turns or something like that, it's like something I don't really have to think about, because I mean berms were huge in BMX racing, and it's like protect the inside line but keep your speed, do this, you use the apex of the turn. I mean, I was training kids to like do this kind of stuff, and I don't know, I feel like that transferred over to BMX, because it's like I'm just hearing myself in my head train other kids, and it's like, well, why am I not riding a mountain bike like this? And
you're right.
I do think the rude awakening for me for mountain bikes was definitely cardio and endurance, because BMX is just depending on the track, but you're averaging like a 45-second sprint, and that's like your lap, and you're doing like maybe 6 or 7 laps for your day of racing. Versus like you're doing some of these stages that are a little bit longer. Obviously, like when I did the Pisgah race, I think we went down Katsuma, and it was like 7 or 8 minutes of me not sure if my hands were gonna fly off because I couldn't feel them anymore. But
that's a fun trail though.
Yeah, it was awesome, but it was definitely like, okay, like, and I could see where upper body would come into that kind of stuff, mm-hmm. and just riding a little bit more like longer areas and like stuff like technical stuff like that. That's what, when we went to Windrock, my arms started fatiguing a lot too, and my hands started hurting, and I'm like, I need to ride this stuff a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like skill wise, I think it carried over. I think the cardio aspect of it didn't really, because it was a different type of training that I was doing. I was doing a lot of like, you know, BMX, do a lot of heavy stuff, and then like you have days where you're just doing explosion. Like you got to keep your legs strong, but you got to keep them fast, and it's like, because you're sprinting as hard as you can, and like, but I do feel like the cadence from BMX carried over into mountain biking, because I understand it a lot better, and it's like, well, if I'm out on a BMX bike and I'm sprinting around the track and I'm chopping, like obviously I'm not spinning the gear the most efficiently that I can. And it's like the same thing carries over into mountain bikes. I think there was one stage at Tuscazor where it was just like this flat XC sprint explosion part, and it's like where everybody like, it was just like, and it's like you're almost towards the end, so you're burnt out. And I think what I did was like, just I kept telling myself like, okay, this is about cadence right here. It's not about how much you can sprint or how many pedals. It's about your cadence. So I did the whole higher your seat, sit on your seat, XC cadence, just like hard gear, and just made sure that my legs never chopped and they were just fluent. And I ended up, I think I got second on that stage. I only lost by like a second on that, but that was like one of the deciders where I ended up winning that race overall, is because that cadence part of it. So
can you explain chopping versus cadence?
Yeah, so chopping is basically when you're trying to spin a gear, but you're just clunk, 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 and you're losing all that momentum around, as your sprocket's driving around, and then your cadence is coming around and it's more fluent, and you're never like chopping, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I guess we call it chopping wood. That's what we're like. But, and you're never really missing that like drive part to like, like, I don't know, make your sprocket go around faster, your revolutions per minute or whatever. So, the smoother you are, even if it feels a little bit slower, I think, in my opinion, it's better than sprinting and chopping at the same time.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah, so I meant to ask, like, I know you did that. What is that enduro series that you guys call? What's like the head of the end series? What's it called?
Oh, the Funduro series.
Is that just Funduro by Combo?
Combo,
that's right.
Yeah, I think Core is involved for the debut race down here too, but it was mainly Combo.
Have you ever like said, all right, I want to do more races, even if you don't do a whole entire series somewhere else? Like, hey, I want to start earlier, like January, February. I just want to do a race, see where I stand.
It's funny because I was literally just texting my buddy Matt today, and we were talking about doing some of these races that Jared's place is having in Georgia. I had never been there, but he loves that place. So we were literally just texting before I got here to like, because they got some races coming up in the end of this month and like February, all of February. So I think I'll be able to. Again, I'm a 9-to-5 job kind of guy, so I got to make sure I can put in for the time off. But we're going to try to shoot out for like towards the end of February and do a couple races there. And I think it's just like you do a stage and it's like you get one time stage or something like that. But regardless, it's different riding. It's, different environment. And then I definitely want to try to do some more races like the Southeast kind of stuff and do that stuff. I would love to do a race at Windrock. I still haven't been to Snowshoe. Like there's a lot of places that I want to go and experience, and like, I don't know, we're definitely going to do the Pisgah race again this year, but I think they kind of scrunched it down to one day this year. So it's cool. I think we're going to make a trip out there and do the race, but go out a little bit earlier so we can go ride like all the other surrounding stuff around there in like Asheville and all that stuff.
Okay.
So
what about like, I know there's a race series put on called Go Nuts. I think they got a race in January, and he's basically, I think he's based out of Georgia or Alabama, but he goes to all those states. He has a whole enduro series. And then if you make it out to Arkansas in May, the Big Mountain Enduro.
Ooh, okay.
So, I mean, that's a national race.
Good to go. Yeah, good to know. Yeah, I know you had followed, what is it, the Bluegrass?
Yep.
So we were looking into that too.
That's fun. Shout out to Josh for putting that on. I know the one at Sugar Camp. Have you rode there yet?
No. I was watching some videos on it.
Yeah, they're getting better and better. They're putting some more money into that. And then they have one at Fort Duffield. Have you rode there?
Mm-mm.
I was just there for the race. I didn't get to see everything. I heard it's fun. I think some of the stuff's real short, but it looks like it's pretty fun.
Sweet.
But yeah, from what I heard, like, what I see, the faster you get back on the bike, the better. Yeah. But yeah, it's hard around here, man. It's cold.
Yeah, it's man, it's like I'm just like dying to ride right now. So it's like all I've been doing is doing the stuff that I don't like to do, is like prep my bike. Yeah. I hate doing it. I suck at it. So this entire time I'm like, okay, well, this is the time, since you can't ride, to do it. Like, make yourself do it. Yeah. And like I was telling you earlier, I'm about to throw my buddy's tuning kit on tomorrow, get my bike dialed in for 2024. So I'm excited for that.
So do you go to Mike's Bike Park, or you go to Ray's? Does that help any?
Yeah, we've made a couple of trips to Ray's. Like Randy and a couple of my other BMX buddies, like they're going somewhere every weekend. They'll go to the Wheel Mill in Pittsburgh and like all that stuff. I've made a few trips out to Ray's this year, which is good. it's funny too because like once you're a mountain biker, like we go to race and I'm sitting there and I got my Strava on my watch and I'm like, well, I got to get some miles in. I'm at a skate park.
Yeah.
But I'm out there training anyway, so it's like you got to get it in where you can get it in. Mike's is awesome too. I haven't been there in a little bit. Sometimes I just got to kind of take a break from it and let it like, I don't know. I like to like go there and be like, okay, I'm not bored of everything. Like I haven't been here in a while. It's kind of like, I don't know, give yourself breaks from every other skate park instead of just burning yourself out on it. And then every time you go back, it's fun again. So, but yeah, Ray's was great. Mike's is great. The Dayton Bike Yard's really fun. I don't know if you've been out there.
Yeah.
Those are fun. I know it's the Tommy Zula Z line, you know. So that's Tom. I grew up racing with Tommy too. So
Tommy's a good dude.
He's like a local legend.
yeah. I've been trying to get him on. He's a busy man.
Yeah, very.
I mean, that guy trains hard too. It'll be freezing out there. He's out there.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I think it was funny because I think like way back then, I think the first time I ever met Tommy was we were doing a training camp in Marquette, Michigan. It was at like a college campus. And he was one of the campers, and I was like one of the trainers there. And I remember Tommy was just causing ruckus all the time, man. Always get like the guy I was training with was Richie Anderson at the time, and his like discipline was always like you get in trouble, like you're doing push-ups, like give me 50 now. I'm pretty sure Tommy walked out of there swole because he did so many push-ups.
Really?
Yeah.
When do you think he like realized, all right, I'm gonna crank it up?
I know he turned elite in BMX because I came back and I don't know, I was like, oh, I'm gonna race. I think I was too young to race Vet Pro, but it was in between after I retired, and it was like, because you have to be like 30 to race Vet Pro, and I think I was like 28 or something. I was like, oh, I'll just race the pro class, and then I ended up seeing Tommy at a race in Phoenix, and he was like, you know, pretty serious in that, and then I hadn't seen him after that, and then I just like seen videos and stuff start popping up of him like, you know, like on pump tracks and all that stuff, and then he ended up winning the world title for that, and I mean, kudos to him, man. He's putting the work, you know, like that he found his like calling when it came to that kind of stuff, and it's funny too because when I go to Horns, I know if I go to the back like where Slim Shady is and all that, I'll see Tommy or Jet out there, and it's fun running into those guys because it's like cool, like they are all BMX dudes, especially Jet Wood. Like, I mean, style for miles. Tommy's like got crazy bike skill, so it's cool because no matter how old I get, I could still learn more stuff. You know what I mean? So I love riding with those dudes, and Tommy's definitely disciplined, and it's funny too because I don't know if Tommy will hate me for this, but it's like I can never get out of Tommy's shadow being in the mountain bike community out here.
Oh, really?
It's like, well, Tommy did that. That's like, well, fine, I'm going to go do it. If Tommy did it, I'm going to go do that gap.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'll hit him up. Like, there was like this step on, step off thing at Horns Hill on Slim Shady. And I was like, hey, I saw a video of you quadding that thing. I was like, how hard is it? And he's like, just do a full BMX, like, crank, like, after that one jump. So I did it, and then I quadded it. So it's like, I'm kind of just, like, biting off his stuff. Like, hey, how'd you do this? How'd you do that?
Yeah.
But I have buddies that'll be like, well, Tommy would do it. If I'm like kind of like struggling with something, I was like, oh, I'm kind of scared, dude. Well, Tommy would do it. I was like, well, I'm gonna go do it then.
That's funny. I didn't. Yeah, that's funny. Like you and Tommy. But yeah, I mean, both ride great. For someone who's learning to jump in the mountain bike world, what's like some advice you would give to get better airtime flow? Because so I feel, let me give a little extra part of that. I know people who've gone e-bike, preferably because now I can clear jumps more because it's got the speed. But you're not on an e-bike. You're doing fine. You got flow. You got airtime. What are people? What's going on there?
You know, I don't know. To me, it was like trail speed before the jump is what makes all the difference. Obviously, you can go session or jump. Like, that's probably the best way to do things. But, I don't know. It's like, for me, I see a lot of people that, I mean, I get it. Because it's like, oh, man, I don't want to go super fast for that jump. Because faster's scarier. But also, faster is easier.
Yeah.
And I have to tell myself that a lot, too. And it's like, I mean, I'll see guys where they're just like, they don't have near enough speed and they're really like putting a strain on their body to try to like just yank up and try to get over this jump and like, oh, I can't clear it and I can't clear it. And it's like, well, focus on your trail speed before you get to that jump. That's where it matters, is just making sure you're in your flow, you're feeling good, and, you know, pump the transitions. Make sure you have like a good amount of speed. If you feel like, oh, I'm coming up short, do an extra half crank or a full crank. And I mean, I don't know. It's different. Mountain bikes is weird for me because I have like, I guess you would say it's like I almost have like a kamikaze kind of attitude when it comes to mountain bike, because I'm like, when I started, I'm like, why wouldn't you jump it? You got suspension, like you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're fine. And then I learned my lesson when you land and tag something, what the suspension does if you don't land right. And I like got kind of shut up real quick. I got huck and bucked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at Davoo, and I got like stuck into a tree. And I literally thought I was gonna die there, to be honest.
Dang. I meant to ask, do you race in flats?
No, I ride clips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird from BMX.
Yeah. Yeah, that transferred over. It's funny. I've gotten a couple of my buddies to switch over, and they're like, yeah, once they get past the factor of like being clipped in and their body gets used to it, it's like, oh yeah, this is really good.
Yeah. Let's get Andy on that train.
I know.
I
Robert Howley.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Do you think they'd be faster?
Yeah, 100%. They're really fast now.
Yeah.
But I mean, scientifically, if you can pull on your pedal and your foot's not coming off, you're going to gain speed.
Yep. And I think less fatigue.
Yeah. Also, it helps with jumping. I don't like to advocate for people to use their clips to jump because...
Cheater.
Yeah, because, well, the same thing happened in BMX. Now you have to be 13 or older to run clips, or I forgot what age it is. They up the age where kids below a certain age have to wear like flat pedals, because kids were relying too much on picking up on their clips, and it was getting dangerous because it was like, wow, this kid's going to endo because he's yanking up on the bike so hard. So I don't know, like I love clips. Of course, there's times where you're riding some loamy, like super tight stuff where you really want to throw a foot down. But it's just more or less, it kind of works on my skill to not throw my foot down. It might not be the fastest, but I mean, I'm just gaining more bike control when I'm doing it like repetitively. But I ride the Crank Brother clips anyways, and they're pretty floaty.
Yeah.
So you can unclip, and then I've had it lucky where I'll just put my foot back in and it clips back in.
Yeah.
So.
I used to ride the SPDs, and I switched to Crank Brothers, and I love them way better.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem, I think someone said the only problem with the Crank Brothers, once they're done, which I don't know when that is, like they're done. Like the SPDs, you keep tightening.
Yeah.
But I like it though. You're right, they float.
Yeah, I rode HTs in BMX, and then Shimano was a really big thing way back then. But I ended up riding HTs, and I mean, you lock your foot in, you have no play. Like it's like you're not coming out until you hit the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are rough. So when I transferred over to like Crank Brothers on a mountain bike, I was like, wow, this float's kind of weird. I'm not really sure about it. And then I ended up liking it. And then I ended up putting the 0 degree float clips, or the cleat pieces in.
Oh, okay.
And I really liked that too. But I just got a new pair of like Crank Brothers shoes, and they already come with like the cleat pieces on them now. So I don't know which ones they gave me, but I'm just going to run whatever they gave me because it saves me money and I don't have to change them.
Yeah. You run the BOA, or you run
the BOA? Yeah.
Yeah. You have to let me know how that goes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I've been thinking, people are like, oh yeah, but if you have a bad crash, you're gonna break that clasp, and you're.
They're pretty replaceable too, like,
yeah.
Because Shimano had the same system. All these other like BMX clip shoes too, whereas like, oh, you get everything's interchangeable. And then I'm pretty sure those companies will warranty them. I don't know.
Yeah, because the new Fox ones look pretty sick. They're like that tan.
Yeah, they're pricey. I was looking at.
They are pricey.
I was like, oh, those are sick, but I don't think I want to pay that much money for them.
Yeah, I got the. Is it Giro or Gyro? Giro.
I've never known how to pronounce that.
Yeah, we'll say they got their one shoe that it's pretty popular. I think Richie Rude, Chambers too.
Okay.
But they never change it. Like they need some new colors. Like it's the same colors. I'm like, come on, let's put a little into it. But
yeah,
it's a popular shoe, durable, but yeah, I just need some new color variety, man.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yeah, those shoes that I ordered too. I had ordered the white with the black splatter on the front, and then I ordered them from Bike Bling, but they ended up like, hey dude, we're out of these, like they're not going to sell them anymore. I was like, fine, just give me all black ones, because it's like, dude, I always wear all black, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to spice it up a little bit. I'm going to get like white and black shoes, and then I'm thinking like, man, these shoes are going to look rough after like one day in the mud.
Yeah.
And I was like, I bought it, and I was like, just do it. And then the guy emailed me back. He's like, yeah, we only got black. I was like, all right, it's a sign. I'll just get the black ones.
Do they have heel slip when you're climbing back up?
No. I have the ones where it's the boa down here and the strap here. Not the double boa.
Yeah.
And that strap, man, they made the Velcro where it goes all the way down, because usually you're pulling Velcro and then you're like way overlapping it, and they have it where it's like it kind of like just holds it all down, so you don't have like the strap flapping around, and like, oh man, like it doesn't pull up. I don't know, it just feels like it's just like your foot's just solid on the pedal. Like you can feel like, especially that's another area where I feel like clips help, is when you're doing like uphills and stuff like that. You can pull so much on those things, and it's like, oh, this is a lot easier. I think when I first got my mountain bike, I rode flats for like one day at Davao, the first time I had ever went. And then I slept the pedal. I'm like, I'm putting my clips on.
See, Adme says flats make you a better jumper.
Yeah, I mean, I think flats give you more skill.
Okay.
100%. And it's just more or less because you have more consequence, to be honest.
Yeah.
You don't have leverage to like yank up on stuff. And it's like, I mean, sometimes when I get on like my skate park bike, like I've always been like a brakeless rider on like when I go to raise and like, you know, skate parks and dirt jumps and all that stuff. And it's like, riding flat, like switching from mountain bikes and then going to that little bike, it's like I'm already squirrely on the little bike because I was used to my mountain bike, and then I was like, oh yeah, I'm on flats now, and then I'm just like, my feet are just doing this in the air. But like that's great for BMX when you're doing freestyle stuff too. Obviously, I'm not gonna throw clips on trying to do freestyle, but I definitely feel like I learned a lot of my skill, especially when I was racing. I learned a lot of it because we were riding skate parks. Like it was like everybody was just like, okay, race train, and we were like, me and my buddies were like, okay, race train, but we need skill. Let's ride skate parks. Let's ride trails. Let's go do some trails trips. And it's funny because one of my really good friends that I grew up racing and all that, is Chris Fox. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
So we grew up racing together, and then we would ride skate parks and all of this stuff and trails, and he's ended up having a really good career from it. He started this crew called the Fast and Loose crew, and I know he rode for Essie for a while, but I think he just parted ways with them now. But he's written 2 books that are on Amazon.
Dang.
And he's just killing it in the freestyle. And what he does is like, he's not necessarily the one out there throwing like, you know, backflip, tail whip, like not looking like a video game control. It's like more or less he's going as fast as he can at 13-foot pool coping thing. And it's like their motto is pull back or die. And it's like, it's insane. So you can see his racer aspect when he's riding the skate park, and it's like he's got his own like style, and it's funny too because like my other buddy Matt Cordova, they're really good friends too, and they're all on like Fast and Loose, and it's like, man, those dudes are insane. Like, and a lot of them come from BMX racing again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's those flats, man. I mean, Steve was dead on. Like, it definitely gives you skill, 100%. Does it give you the speed? I don't think so. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I can see it. I want to learn how to do like there's that one picture of you that they put on for the Davao Trail Day for the thing, and you're in the front lead.
Yeah.
Like you're almost I don't know if you call it like a scrub, maybe a scrub, however you want to say it. Like just even like a little bit of a whip or something, man. That's like, is that more? That's a lot of hip work, right?
Yeah, a lot of hip and core work. Clips help a little bit. Also, the clips restrict you though, because you can only go a certain distance, and then your foot wants to pop out.
Okay.
It's funny too because my buddy Matt was calling me out on that, and he's like, "I think you can do a flatter one, like a flatter, like flatty."
Really?
I was like, dang. And then I realized I went out and I did like another one, and I got a really good video of one. And he's like, "All right, that was better." And then I was like, "Dude, you know what? I just realized that's my opposite way."
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, you can't judge me too bad off that. But it was funny. I just realized that it was my opposite way, and I was like, oh, I should probably try it the other way and see if I like it better that way. But yeah, it's a lot of core and leg.
I guess I'm always fear, like I'll try it, even if probably my head will look like crap, that I can't get back. Like I'm like, oh, I'm turned.
Yeah.
I've seen someone do that. They went 90, and I was like, they're landing 90.
Yeah.
They're done.
I was trying to, like, last year we were out on riding Narnia at Davao, and on that one little kicker that they have, I was like, man, I've always wanted to do suicide no-handers. And now that I'm on a mountain bike, I feel like that's a suitable trick. Like, that's a big trick. I tuck no-handers all day. Like, I can do those all day. But, man, I don't know what it is with the suicide no-handers. I did one where I took my arms off, and then I literally just, like, missed both my grips and then rode out with my handlebars and my armpits over the bars, and I didn't fall. And that was the last time I tried one. But it's funny because everybody says it's, like, the easiest thing. But to me, it's like, I don't understand it. So maybe a bigger jump. I don't know.
Dang.
I think that goes back into our thing, like faster is easier.
Yeah.
So maybe I was just trying to go too slow at it, and like I didn't have enough air time, and I was timid of it. I don't know, but I don't know. There's a few things I want to do. Like obviously I want to race and stuff like that, but I also want to like. I've never flipped a full suspension bike. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
I can flip a BMX bike every now and then. I don't like to do it. It was like there was like a stint where I was like flipping dirt jumps all the time, flipping box ramps, and it's just I don't know what it was, but I never felt comfortable. And it's funny because Barry, when he used to live in California, his yard had ramps, and I knew every time I would go over there, he's gonna make me flip. Mm-hmm. So I'd already go over there, driving over there nervous because I knew he was gonna make me flip more than I ever wanted to. And it's funny because he doesn't like it's just blinking for him. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I loved it when we were out at the Trek retreat at Horns in like at the end of October. There were some kids out there flipping like we were doing best whip or something. They were flipping that jump, and I was like, man, that looks pretty cool. Like, I just need to get the balls to do it. And I know full suspension is gonna feel weird because I'm used to nothing. So I was like, well, maybe if I just lock my shock out, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
That was a theory, but I got to take my clips off because I'm not doing it clipped in.
Man, yeah, flip would be sweet. Just to be like, yeah, even once if I did that, I'd be like, all right, I've met way higher goals than I anticipated. So I know we kind of jumped around a little bit. On nutrition, I know you've kind of cut out bread. Was that the biggest one you wanted to cut out?
A lot of sugar, too.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, no more Pop-Tarts.
I know. So it's funny, though, because everybody's like, well, this and that, and you can do this. That's not healthy. And it's like, look, Randy gave me a diet that's like, it works with my schedule. I mean, obviously, I'm not a full-time pro mountain bike rider. I'm like a average dude with a normal job that loves to ride mountain bikes. And he gave me a schedule and a diet that works for that. And I mean, it's definitely, I've saw a big change in like, even like physically, mentally. It goes into that area where you just feel so prepared when you go into a race. I think Davao is knowing that it was like home field advantage and like knowing how much we rode over here in Davao. That was probably the most confident I went into a race. But yeah, it's mainly like just less sugar, a little bit like watching the calories and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you know, like, I don't know, Pop-Tarts, we kind of found a loophole because Legendary makes a Pop-Tart. It's not the same as
it never is.
But me and some of the Horns dudes, like Sherm and all those dudes, were hooked on these Pop-Tarts. And then we drink like the sugar-free white monsters. We call them White Walkers.
Still, you still drink them?
Yeah. So that's another thing I want to kind of worry about this year is cutting down my intake on those. I don't want to give them up completely, but back then I was drinking way too much a day, like 3 or 4 a day. It's just not good. You know, it's just, and it's funny too because I'm like, well, I don't drink, so I can drink this bad stuff. It's like, well, it's just as bad. Yeah. And you don't get a cool effect after it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, all right, this year I want to limit it like one every other day or get to where you're just drinking like one on the weekends when you're going to ride with the boys or anything like that. And then as far as that, it was just like prepping my meals and making sure I'm eating every meal because there'd be times where I'd skip a meal, eat crap for one and then skip another meal. And it's like, that's not good for your body.
Right. What's your race day meal?
Race day is like pretty much either like some oatmeal or like love the hard-boiled eggs.
So the rider who's behind you during a race, I feel for you because you got that gas.
That protein fart too. Ooh, that's rough. But yeah, it's mainly like what I would normally eat. Like, I'm hooked on those Quest protein bars. Those things are really good. And then we have like this thing now where we're getting like rice cakes and you can slap a little bit of peanut butter on them throughout the day at a race and like bananas and I mean just easy stuff to eat. And then like I don't really eat a huge meal before a race obviously, but I make sure I have like enough in my body to where it's gonna sustain itself throughout the race.
Yeah, I've known people who they don't eat race day.
Okay.
Like more than overeat. They're just like so like nervous and bike brothers.
Oh yeah, I've been through that.
Yeah.
Yep. And BMX, when I was younger, it was like you wake up and you got the nervous poops. You don't want to eat. You're like forcing yourself to eat, and you're like like gagging. You're like, and then I remember my stepdad used to throw me these power gel things, and the texture of it, I'd be like throwing up trying to eat.
Man, I don't mind those.
Now I probably wouldn't mind them, but back then, you know, when you're getting forced to eat this thing and you're gagging and you're just like crying, it's like I'm not having a good time here.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I need to get more on a better training because sometimes I don't eat breakfast, but some people, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm intermittent fasting because I don't eat. People are like, you can't do that every day.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I definitely need to do something for sure to get better on even if I'm not racing, just in general. You feel on this trail, you're like, I'll be riding. I'm like, I'm exhausted already.
Yeah.
Or like,
Yeah.
because you're carrying around extra weight.
Yeah, I think the consistency of your meals is a really big, important part of it too. I know since I've been consistent with that, and like I mean, again, I'm not a fan of water, but I do drink like gallons of spring water every day.
Yeah.
Like it's like, well, why spring water? And it's like, well, because it has these minerals that your body needs.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so it's funny too because we're all about like the spring water, the legendary Pop-Tarts, and the White Walker monsters. So we're like, yeah, that's the good stuff right there.
When did you become, and if it's been your whole life, I don't know, when did you become so much about your faith?
I think it was around when I was just on my way out of BMX racing. It was more or less, let's see, I don't know, maybe like around like 22, 23, somewhere right around there. My parents had went to this church and they're like, oh, you should go to this church. And then I started going just because it was always in like, like my family and all this and that. And I went and it was cool. Like I believe in God. Like, that's kind of just how it was. And then we ended up, like I had some crazy experience happen to me where, long story short, I was dating this chick and then she ended up being a porn star. Yeah. While we were dating.
Wow. You didn't know?
Didn't know at all.
California?
Yeah, California. And yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Wasn't stoked on that.
Can I ask how you met?
We met through a mutual friend from racing.
Okay.
Yeah. So BMX.
Yeah.
So some stuff happened with that to where I really got obviously everybody's usually, majority of the people that have drawn to faith is more or less because they're going through like, I don't know, he brings you closer when you're in distress and like,
right.
You know what I mean? So it was more or less like I went into that to where I'm like, you start praying, you're like, I hate praying for this, but I really need this. Like I really, really need like.
Yeah, no one prays to God when everything's going right.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, like if this and this happen, blah, 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 like I'm going to devote myself to going to church and this and that. And like the outcome ended up being in my favor on certain things. And I was like, it kind of led me there, like, okay, like cool, like I want to learn more. So I started going to church and then I ended up continuously going, learning the Bible, and then I got baptized in like 2014 or 16, one of those years. I got baptized at a church in California called Sandals, and then I ended up.
That's like a vacation resort.
Yeah, that's what everybody says when they're Sandals. No, it's another church called Sandals. And then I ended up serving on the security team there because I was like, oh, I want to do my part and start serving a little bit. I had a buddy that got me on the team there for the security team, so I kind of got to bypass all the background check and all that stuff. Like they did it all, but it was like, oh, I know this guy, he's cool. Like, and then when I moved out here, I ended up starting to go to Crossroads, and then I ended up meeting Dave Huff because he was like, oh, my wife's the CFO. I'm like, well, I'll go to Crossroads. That's pretty cool. And then me and Dave got like a good connection, and like we chat here and there, and so it's like, I don't know, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I think I was like 23 or 24.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Catholic school, and it actually drove me away from it dramatically. Like, it just things I was like, I just don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Yeah.
Delk would probably tell you the same thing. And then as I got older, I just was kind of like, I just started, by my bedside. I think I've told this before, like just. Praying and I always did it for thankful for what I do have, not something that I always need.
Yeah.
Because I had a buddy tell me, never pray for material things. You'll never get what you want.
Yeah.
And so I just always was thankful, and then it's a weird domino effect. When you don't ask for something, some good things always come out.
Yeah.
When you're always asking for something, you never get what you want. So I did that, and it's kind of funny. I kind of feel guilty myself because this house that we're in, I've seen houses, and then it kind of worked out. You even said, man, this room is set up the way you podcast and everything. Yeah. And then I kind of was like, all right, I kind of got what I needed. And I kind of, fell short of going back to what I was like, praying and thankful. And then I just recently went back to it. And I kind of criticize people with some churches. In my opinion, it's some churches are hard for me to go to.
Yeah.
I don't judge people. Hey, that's where you go. I just don't want to go. But there's some things that are hard for me to accept in a sense. And, you know, my family's completely like, we're all believers, but my brother's Mormon, my dad's Catholic, and my mom and sister are kind of like born again Christians. So it's kind of like we're all over the place.
Yeah, you got a variety.
Yeah, but we're all at the same, you know, we're all seeking the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I get the whole church thing too, because I mean there's a lot of stuff that drives people away from church, and it's like, you know, that shouldn't heckle your relationship with God.
Right.
But it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it does for some people. I mean, this last year was rough. Like, I'll get into it. Like, this last year, my wife separated from me. We recently got a divorce.
Oh.
Something that I'm not proud of, obviously, because my faith, you know, it's frowned upon. And it's, like, again, that was a mental battle through me through the whole 2023 race season, because I had a lot more important stuff going on, trying to figure this out. And we tried to reconcile and do counseling and all that kind of stuff. And it was a true testament to my faith. It really, like, pushed my faith, like, I mean, there was times where I'm like, why would this happen? There's no, like, you know, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, why would this happen? Like, this can't be the plan. And it's like through this whole year I've learned, like, it's not my time. It's not on my time. It's not what I want. Like, eventually I'll see the silver lining out of it and something's going to happen good from it. And it's like, okay, but like, what do I do from here? And it's like, you know, like, what helps me through all this kind of stuff? And it's like, it's funny because I was telling my buddy Matt and Taylor, I'm like, dude, they were my free therapists when we go to races. I'm just sitting there like, bro, I got a lot to unload. You ready to listen? And it's like the whole drive up, I'm over there like, why is it, you know, this and that? And I mean, dude, those dudes have been so supportive, and they're like a true brotherhood. And like moving out here, man, I'm so blessed that I like found those kind of guys. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, okay, like, great. And they're like, well, like, dude, all this crap's going on for you, but like, how are you keeping such a good attitude about it? But it's like, that's where your faith comes in. It's like, it really pushed me to where I was questioning, like, what is this? And it's like, I don't know, it was a true testament to me, like I'm all in this, you know, for my faith. And it's like, eventually I ended up just giving in and like stopped worrying, because that's like the number one thing that you can't do is like worry and think that everything is going to happen on your time. Yeah. It's not. It might happen 10 years from now, 20 years from now, tomorrow. I don't know. But it's like, I know something good will come from this and lessons were learned. And it's like, you know, I want to be able to show other people that even in like times of diversity and like difficult situations, that you can still overcome them. So it's like, that's kind of what my mentality's been towards the end of the year, is like, okay, how can I turn this, you know, this bad, like, awful thing that happened to me into something that's going to, like, I don't know, not inspire others, but like show them like, man, this is good guidance. Like, it's really good, like, structure. Like, you can get through a lot of difficult things. And it's like, now I'm like, man, I don't think obviously I never thought that would happen in my life, but I mean, it did. And that's where I'm at. So I'm just trying to keep a positive outlook on it. And like, I'm not one of those people that try to push my faith on somebody, because I can't stand when people try to do that to me. Yes. Like, I'm not a religious nut, all that kind of stuff. It's like, if somebody wants to know about it and they ask me, sure, I'll tell you. Or like, you know, like, it's like half my friends are atheists, half are Catholic. It's like, I don't choose my friends based on, like, of course I have my community that are Christians, but also like, I don't judge or like choose my friends by what they believe in. It's like, well, are you gonna have my back? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're a good dude. You're a good dude. Like, I don't, like, whatever you believe is what you believe, but if what I like put off from what I believe inspires you, great. Like, then my job here is like what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, I know people who go to church are some of the most self-imposed, like, to them, like, people I know wouldn't even like, I'm like, never, hey, I'll help you. And then I know people who are atheists would drop anything to come help you. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. That's where it kind of comes back to me, or like the church thing. Like, I'm going to do what's worth for me, but it's kind of weird how you see that. Yeah. Yeah. It's, and it's like you said too, like, another thing was like, you always forget to pray when things are going good. Yep. And that's something that I've been trying to work on, is like, every morning when I wake up, there's like a 5-minute period before, like, I'll tell my alarm to snooze, and it's like, all right, this is like my prayer time, because I don't get time throughout the day to do it. And it's like, you know, and I'm thankful I'm here. You know, and like, you know, I just kind of spend my time, take deep breaths, do my thing. And it's like, I strive to like make it like a routine now to thank him for what I do have, and not what I don't have. And like, I want this, it's like, no, please, you know, give me the ability to do the things I need to do and how to overcome certain things. And like, you know, just give me the strength, and thank you, yada, yada, yada. And like, look over my family. And it's like, I don't know, I start the day off better that way. I know this goes aside from it, but there was another thing too. Like my morning rituals, like I do that, and then I make sure to make my bed before I go to work.
Yes, that's big, dude. You want to know what's crazy? I travel through the week, and I still do that. The maid's probably like, "Why am I here?"
Yeah. Was it that? Did you watch the video of that admiral guy that had like a speech on what making your bed does for you?
I actually know there's a guy that Tim Ferriss. You ever heard of Tim Ferriss? He does a podcast. He's been doing it forever, but. He had somebody on, and he was like, how that changes your daily routine.
Yeah, it's insane, man. There's a video of like this one, I think it's Admiral something, that's talking about it, and it gets you pumped up. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna make my bed the rest of my life when I wake up.
It makes sense. Also getting into bed that's made's like way better than getting a sloppy bed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I was at. Like again, 2023 was a mental battle for me for sure, and then luckily, instead of using like the, you know, like my coping process was go to the gym and work out. So I'm really thankful that was it, and not hitting the bottle or doing drugs, or, you know what I mean? It could have went way worse. So I'm thankful for that, at least.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like just because I've been on my own with travel, or I lived in a van in Arkansas for 6 months, but like now I'm like, man, it'll be okay. And some people are like, why are you so calm? I go, just one time or place, or this or that, and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, I'm like, you're right where you need to be in everything.
Yeah.
You're thinking about everything wrong, or my life's not fair, or this or that. I go, think about other things. And I don't know, kind of got to talk to some people through it sometimes.
Yeah.
To get like, it's not as bad as you're making it to be.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I'll catch myself too, like thinking in my head, like complaining about stuff. And then I'm like, and I think one of it was like a work experience that I had where I was delivering a package to somebody, and I went to the door and they needed a signature, and it took him a while to answer the door, and then the guy ended up answering it, and he was blind. Damn. And I needed him to sign this. So I was like, sir, like, do you mind if I help you sign this? And he's like, no, absolutely not. So I had to like take his finger and guide it and have him sign it. And I'm like, I'm over here complaining, and this guy can't see. Like, I mean, there's people that can't walk, and it's like, what am I complaining about? It's all these first world problems that you hear, like, oh, you know, my bike's not set up right, or, oh man, I got third at that race, darn. It's like, dude, work harder for those people that can't do that kind of stuff. And it's like, that's the mentality I want to carry into this year, is like, dude, just be grateful for everything you have, make the best of every situation, and just like, I want to be a positive influence for somebody. So that's kind of like, which is kind of cool, because now like this podcast is cool because we got to talk about faith, which something I wanted to get into a little bit anyway. So
yeah, it's weird how much of a sensitive subject it can be on people.
Yeah,
strange.
I don't know, I just treat it differently. Like, I don't think I know a lot of people get pushed off by it because it's like, oh, it's just, you gotta wear your dress shirt to church and it's like, no, dude, like, I'm tattooed, like, you know what I mean? Like, I cuss. That's something I want to work on, too. I don't want to, like, cuss so much.
I was nervous when you were coming on. I know since you're a church guy, I was like, man, I cuss.
No, you're fine. To me, it's just something, like, a habit that I just kind of wanted to kick, because there's times where I have a mouth like a sailor.
Yeah.
Work is majority of road rage. And then I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But, no, it's more or less, like, I don't know. I just want to kind of put out like a good vibe for people when I'm around them. I don't want to be that dude around just like complaining about my problem, and it's like, well, yeah, this sucks, but all right, like, it could be a lot worse. And that's something I got to remember too.
Yeah, like, I mean, you've seen upstairs this house, it's in shambles, a little bit of remodeling, and I'm just like, I gotta be patient. It'll be like, sometimes I have a couple friends I call, and they'll be like, yeah, but once it's done, I'm like, okay. They're like, don't think short term, just think like a couple months. They're like, that's not that far away. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny too. It's like, dude, it's like life, man. It's messy, but then like, at some point you're gonna be like, oh wow, this was like the fruits of my labor. This is like looks great. And then like I mean the people that'll stay here will be stoked, and you're gonna be like, yeah, it was a process, but it worked.
Yeah, I think also as I get older, I don't like. I mean, we all kind of like being comfortable a little bit, like. But I also like being busy. If I could give anybody advice for 2024, and don't trust me, I'm not the person to give great advice on anything, but stay busy. Stay as busy as possible. Gym, work, do something on the side, do whatever. Just make your day busier, and I swear, I promise things will be a better outcome.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been trying to keep myself busy through this whole, since last year all the way up until now, so I don't plan on like stopping. And it's like the days where I have nothing to do, I'm like, man, what can I do? Like I don't want to sit around, like but I don't know. And that's like where I'll end up doing some like, I don't know, I got woodworking projects that I can do and stuff like that, just around the yard and all that kind of stuff. But
well, cool, man. Hey man, I think my heater's going out because I'm freezing. What else was I gonna say? There's something else I was gonna bring up. Oh yeah. So with your racing season this year, do you seek out sponsors? I know you kind of ride for Hustle Before the Hill. Well, or are you just like, hey, if they come, they come?
So I actually reached out to a few people. Again, I'll be riding for Hills Before the Hustle this year. And then I actually just sought out, I got on the grassroots program for DAD. So Justin and Tyler over at DAD hooked me up for this season, which is kind of cool. I mean, obviously I'm not expecting to be on the full factory teams because that's like when you're pro and it's your job. And it's like, but, and then like Randy's whole nutrition thing is RS Performance Nutrition. I know he's going to start getting some stuff going for him, some shirts and website and all that stuff.
Okay.
I know I've been able to recruit some BMX guys to go to him, and I think he's taking care of a couple teams actually with their nutrition and stuff. But yeah, it's just Hills Before the Hustle, DAD, and RS Performance Nutrition are my main ones this year. If anything comes, that'd be great. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would like to eventually get like a grassroots program with some bike company, but I know that's pretty hard to do. I know some guys I race, like Tom just got for Rocky Mountain. He switched from Trek to Rocky Mountain on like their program, and then Cameron Reagan is on like the specialized program too. So I mean, I would love to have YT.
Yeah,
that's the bike I just got, and I love that thing. And I just like the style and everything of all the riders on there. And I don't know, that would be something that I would try to want to shoot for at some point. But for now, I'm happy with the three that I got. I mean, it's all aspects too. It's like clothing, and then Fly Racing helps me out as well too.
Oh, really? Nice.
That was a relationship that I carried over from BMX for a long time. Like I know in BMX, I was like on the cover of their catalog. They would do like a photo shoot every summer for their new stuff, and I was on the cover a couple times with them. And Ray Hudson over at Fly, he's been great. Even when I was a little, what was it? Entitled person when I was in BMX, he's stuck through all my BS, and like we still have a pretty good relationship, and he hooks me up. So Fly Racing is great. I love their gear, their pants, their full faces are great. But yeah, that's pretty much. I'm stoked on the DAD thing as well.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I just got some new bars and all that stuff, and it's like, oh, this helps a lot financially.
Yeah.
And then Adam at Hills Before the Hustle, he hooks it up, and he just sent over our jerseys for this year, and I can't wait to have them unveiled. They're pretty sick. I
really considered last year starting a mountain bike team, but I kind of told the guys, hey, I'll get y'all jerseys, whatever. I kind of looked into it, but I guess where I want to make sure that I do all the races. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
There wasn't like a full commitment level there.
Yeah.
No problem. I understand there's life issues, but man, maybe I'll work on that again. I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen I'm too much of a perfectionist though too on jerseys where like I don't like that. So that would be I would have to have someone else. Hey, you just do it.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. You said keep yourself busy, so that might be something you want.
I know. There was something else I was gonna ask. Yeah. So you're speaking of like budgets and bikes. How is it that like 2 years ago, during COVID, you almost can't find a bike. Everyone's riding a bike, and now we're 2 years, almost 3 years, we'll say, from that, and it's like racing teams are cutting it. Budgets are crazy.
Yeah.
Did we just? I say we as we'll say bike industry. Did we like overestimate?
Possibly. I don't know much about mountain biking like industry since it all kind of carries over, but I know like BMX it's not as big as everybody thinks it is, which sucks because it's a very difficult sport and it takes a lot of time and effort to become like a pro athlete at that level. And it's like it's overlooked a lot, but it's not really, I don't know, it's hard because it's 45 seconds and it happens so quick. So like spectator wise, it's not the greatest.
Right.
So like, I don't know, when like the whole thing happened and like our containers were not coming through, and then I think that one freaking jammed up the whole canal and we couldn't get anything. BMX wise, like, I don't know, you couldn't get anything now. I don't know how it's doing now, but I know on like the mountain bike, like when I was ordering my YTs and stuff, a lot of them were out of stock still.
Yeah.
But then they were having blowout sales, and that's why I bought mine. Because it was like more or less, I was texting Matt and I was like, hey dude, like, man, this thing's, they lowered the price. Like, look at all the stuff. Is it good? Like, I'm like, look at this. I don't know what's good. You know what I mean? Because I was riding my first bike that I bought like 2 years ago was a Scott Ransom.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I liked it. Like, I did my research on it and it was like, okay, it was a good entry level bike for me. We tuned that thing and maxed it out to the possible it could go. And I know like Steve and some of those dudes, they kept telling me I was underbiked, which I was like, okay, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
He was like, nah, you got to get a new bike. And I was like, I don't know, man, this bike's fine. And I ended up doing all of 2023 last year on that Scott. And then right before the Horns race, I got my YT, but I didn't race it at the Horns race. People were like, well, why wouldn't you? I was like, why would I change something if it's not broke yet?
Right, yeah.
Like, there's one race left. Let me just ride it out. And then second that race was over, I put a sign on my Scott and it's like for sale. I think I actually sold it for like 2 weeks after that. I thought it was going to take a lot longer to sell it because it's hard to sell a bike right now.
Well, acoustic e-bikes, yes. Yeah. Everyone was going e-bike route.
Yeah, so I don't know. But then when I ordered my YT, like I upped the frame size. But if I wanted a small, it was like out of stock. But I know it's because they're having blowout sales too.
Yeah.
I don't know how that transfers over, if they're just blowing it out to get their new stuff in, or they're just like really, if companies are hurting. I don't know how it works.
Yeah. It's just crazy that like some downhill teams have like basically cut back. They've let riders go. Just like 2 years ago, we couldn't, I mean, you go to a shop and you're like, we're out of bikes. People bought them all.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what happened there.
I think the whole effect of COVID wore off, and then people were like, all right, that was cool. That was a cool phase.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, someone said, well, he's like, let's just take Trek, for example. And, like, we're just using Trek, for example. Let's just say, like, oh, we're out of bikes. We need to order 50,000 more bikes.
Yeah.
And then they order, and then people are like, all right, now COVID's over. Well, I'm going to sell the bike I got 2 years ago or whatever. And now they're overstocked in places.
Yeah.
And now that, like you said, you found a bike that went on sale. And then now they're like, all right, well, we got to cut budget somehow.
Yeah.
So that's the best scenario I can come up with.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah,
good
thanks
talking
for having
to you.
me, man.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to see how your 2024 season goes. Maybe next time we'll get Matt, and then you both come in.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And mid-season, end of season, whatever. You guys aren't too far from me.
No, we're local, so.
Let's see how, hopefully, Davu's new upgrade, it's supposed to be coming when weather gets decent, how that turns out, too.
Yeah, I think we'll have a good turnout for there, too.
Cool. Well, all right, man, I appreciate it, and thanks, everybody, for listening. Talk to you later.
Thanks.